welcome to Arts Alive Books. Joining me in the studio tonight is author Mackenzie Brown. Born and raised in Liverpool, Mackenzie has published 5 novels. He's written a series of detective stories set in Liverpool in the 1940s, the Prince of the City series, and has recently published Annie's War. Annie's War features the family of the author, focusing mainly on the fortunes of his grandmother, Annie Newland, in Liverpool around the time of the Second World War. Full of authentic historical detail, it also retells the story from different perspectives of family members. The story brings home very clearly just how difficult life was, not only for those who served in the war, but also for those left behind. Mackenzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. I wonder if you'd like to start by just telling us a little bit about how you began to write in general before we get into the detail of these texts.
Sure. I started to write probably when I was a child. I like making up stories and probably very early on, as I mentioned earlier, hearing stories around the dinner table about my grandparents' lives probably sparked something within me that obviously wasn't realised until that book was published. But it's been quite a long journey in terms of research and different family members that have given me information.
So with respect to Annie's War, which is a kind of biographical memoir account written as if from the perspective of your grandmother,
Absolutely.
About her experiences in wartime and about your family's experiences as well, the people who stayed behind in Liverpool and the people who were fighting, is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yes, that's true. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to research and write this one?
Many years on and off. I mean, this was much of the research was done before the last census went online. So a lot of it was looking at microfiche files at Liverpool Library. That's cool. I got a lot of help from the people there as well.
Okay,
the library were really helpful.
What made you decide to write it?
I'd always wanted to. I'd written a few short stories kind of related to it because there's a bit in the book about when my grandmother meets her dead father, and she actually doesn't know. She'd been told he died anyway, but because he never wanted to see the children after the death of his wife, she was always told he died. But to find he was still living, and she was taken to a bearded man in a coffin, told it was her uncle. And then when she was told by her eldest brother, this in fact was her father, I actually wrote a short story about that particular incident many years ago, kind of cutting my teeth on that particular time.
So in a way, have you written the book to bring a new kind of honesty and set the record straight in terms of your family's history? Things have been kept
I suppose,
in the dark.
I suppose so. I always thought it was a great story. I always thought it would make a great story. I mean, it's written very much like a novel. But apart from perhaps the dialogue...
You're inside your grandma's head, aren't you, for the most part?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, apart from the dialogue, it's as accurate as I could make it.
And there are some fantastic photographs as well. I don't know if it's possible to see those from this distance, but there's a really great quality of photography.
Yeah, family archive, sort of raiding all the family, various families dotted throughout the region, yes.
So for people who haven't read it, what would you say is the most important passage or section, or how would you characterise its story generally?
I would say that it's a story that has many highs and lows. It's typical of its type, if you like, but to actually underline the fact that it's a true story. You know, it reads a bit like a melodrama, but it's true. All of this happened, all of these things, and I always characterised the book as they were quite ordinary people living through extraordinary times.
Yeah. And what would you say is the most extraordinary or most challenging moment that your grandmother had to face?
Well, I think from the very start, I mean, the reason I chose the title is I always thought her life right throughout the book was a bit of a war. She started life in the worst possible circumstances. I mean, we're not giving much away because it's in the early chapters, where her mother dies in childbirth. Father abandons the family, and the rest of her brothers and sisters are actually farmed out to other relatives. She is kind of almost given to a neighbour, a barren couple, and she grows to love the male of this couple, but has trouble with. She becomes almost the house does all the household chores. She becomes a bit of a Cinderella,
like a servant.
almost,
Yeah.
until this lady's demise. But she grew very fond of Mr. Groves, who was her sort of surrogate father, for want of a better thing, and treated him like a father. And so her life started in the worst of possible circumstances. She didn't help herself. She didn't attend school. She was a famous truant, but she had an incredible spirit, and she had an incredible temper as well, which is in the book.
I like that, actually.
Yeah,
I like that.
She was a feisty woman.
Yeah. So tell me, I think your grandfather, Angus, is one of your biggest heroes. Would you like to tell us why?
Sure. Well, I always thought him an educated man for his particular, the era he was born in.
He didn't play truant, huh?
He did not know. He knew he was a big reader like I am, and he was a very dignified man. And I think from stories that have been told to me, he used to help people in the locale. I mean, obviously we lived in a different time, but he'd help people in the street with their paperwork and on other bits and pieces. They were one of the first to have a telephone in their house, so he would let people. So people would go to him for advice, basically, and he was that kind of man. I could go to him when I was a boy for advice, and you know, it was always, he was a wise old man.
With respect to your other book, or the series that it's the first text in the series, Prince of the City. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because this is a novel, but again, set in Liverpool, so
Yes.
very much about you making the city vivid and celebrating its strengths.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, this is my almost love of detective, hard-boiled, pulp fiction detective novels, but with a Liverpool twist, if you like. I mean, it's very much the home of pulp fiction is probably very much set in the USA. So it sort of is an homage to some of that. Yes, absolutely.
That's good. I like that.
But we wanted, I wanted to create a character who loved the city, but was the ultimate underdog. So Vic Prince is a black character whose ancestors came on the last slave ship into the city, and he considers the city his. And this chaos is going on all around him, but he manages to always do the right thing.
So it's about cultural migration as well as about what it is to be a Scouser at a certain period of time.
Absolutely, but in the sort of worst possible of times, and in terms of his particular background, you know, they black people, and his girlfriend is a Chinese extraction. And both of them, you know, obviously face the racism issue. They're not, you know, outside of their communities, are not welcome in other parts of the city.
But I think Liverpool actually is quite an inclusive city in terms of that, isn't it? So were you kind of writing into this novel how it's come now to be such a forward-thinking, inclusive
Absolutely.
place?
No, I would agree with that. I'm perhaps writing it with one eye on the modern perspective, the Liverpool of today almost. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because your love of Liverpool comes across very clearly from both of the books, actually. What do you think is the greatest thing about the city?
I think the people are its greatest, you know, thing, if you like, if that's a word. I think the people, we always hear this about Liverpool people, always warm, with a good sense of humour. And I think, you know, if we add to the fabulous architecture we have here, it's a wonderful city. Courage
is also something you're focused on in both these books in very different ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's probably because I like the idea, you know, that people can stand up to situations. That probably is a theme throughout my books.
I think so, you know, conflict, but courage in the face of it.
Absolutely true, yes, I would agree.
So what are you writing at the moment?
At the moment, I'm attempting to write the third in the Prince of the City series.
Fantastic.
The second is already available, and the third involves, not to give too much away, but a black Hollywood star comes into the city and is looking for help from our hero.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's where that's kind of halfway through. I'm also toying with the idea of writing a book of 10 short stories. A couple have already been written.
And would those be based or set in and around Liverpool, or would you be?
Most of them would be, but there's one featuring Vic Prince, and there's also another character. I've written a book called Lost Boys, also set in Liverpool in the 70s, and the character from that is also featured in a short story.
That's cool. Have you got any advice for people who are at home who I love the city and love writing and would love to do the kinds of stuff you do?
Well, I would tell anybody who's interested in writing, stick at what you're doing. I mean, funnily enough, I had a conversation with somebody who asked my advice similar, in a similar way the other day. And I said to her, what I tend to always say these days is, if you're writing something, complete it.
Oh, that's good advice.
Actually, yeah, get to the end of it.
Stick to it before you move to the next project.
Yeah, don't try and make your first draft perfect, is my own advice. Because I think it goes back to Hemingway's quote, almost. Not that I do this, but I would advocate it if you feel you need to do it. And that's write drunk, edit sober. The editing is the important process for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Write drunk, edit sober. That's good. Okay, cool. Well, we wish you all the best for your future projects, and thanks for sharing these two with us. So that's Annie's War and the Prince of the City series. We really appreciate it, Mackenzie. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us for part 2 when we visit the bookstore Right Blend to find out which books you should put on your gift list this Christmas. With Christmas fast approaching, we dropped into Right Blend in Waterloo to speak with Tony and Bob to find out which books should be on everyone's list this Christmas.
Right, well, here at Right Blend, we've got Christmas covered. We've got all the books that are going to be the hottest books this year. To start with these, adult colouring books are still as popular as ever. As well as the titles by Joanna Basford and Millie Marotta, this one is going to be the biggest title this year. We've already sold out, and we've got more stock coming in. All the wholesalers have sold out. It's going to be massive. As well as Harry Potter, though, there are colouring books for everybody. Even Game of Thrones fans. We also have a Doctor Who one coming in, and we have a Sherlock one coming in. The Game of Thrones ones, though, we think you'll probably only need red for that one. Not many other colours involved.
Just recently, obviously with the media exposure, there's a big thing about to happen, Star Wars. Now, everybody from 8 to 80 is going to be into Star Wars. So get to your local bookshop. There's sticker books, there's books behind the films, something for everybody. Star Wars is, as I'm sure everyone knows, going to be big.
Now, another of this year's big sellers are Ladybird books. Now, many people will remember Ladybird books from their childhood. These are a little bit different, though, because the original readers of all the Ladybird books have grown up now, so we need books telling us about things we need to know now. So, the new Ladybird books are books like this one. Interest to grown-ups. There are other ones in the series are the Ladybird book How It Works the Husband, How It Works the Wife, just to be fair, the Ladybird book of Sheds, the Ladybird book of Dating, and the Ladybird book of The Hangover. They're hilarious books and perfect stocking fillers.
Every 2 years in the country we have a thing called the Children's Laureate. There have been wonderful people, Jacqueline Wilson, Anne Fine, Michael Rosen, who is a wonderful poet and literary activist. At the moment it's Chris Riddell. He's done this special book because he's an illustrator. It's a doodle a day. He's done the work to get you started, you do the work to get you finished. It's very therapeutic as colouring.
We have a range of lovely books for animal lovers. Now, everyone is familiar with a street cat named Bob. We have in stock the Christmas book, A Gift from Bob, which continues the story of James and his relationship with Bob the cat. If you want other cat books, we have the whole range of books by Tom Cox, who recently came here to give a very, very funny talk about his life with his cats, including his famous sad cat, the bear. So we have the full range of those in stock. Most of them are signed by Tom Cox.
A book that hasn't yet had the recognition that it should have done is this one by Gabrielle Zevin. Now, she's an American girl. I read this book just over a year ago, and normally when I read a book and tell people it's good, they start listening. Not because I'm brilliant, just because I've read a book and they agree with me. For some reason, we haven't really got this one going yet. So, folks, if you want a book that really brings a story to life, read this one. It's about a little chap who runs a bookshop. So I had a lot of sympathy with him because I used to do that. And things aren't going well. Someone has nicked the one book that's worth any money. Someone has also deposited a relatively newborn baby on the floor of his bookshop, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. It's a lovely love story of sorts without it being soppy. If you want a book that will make you laugh, make you cry, read A.J. Fikry.
Now, every year at Christmas we find that there is one book that comes completely out of left field and surprises everybody by its popularity. This year the book has actually come from more like left fjord, because it's the book of Norwegian wood chopping. Now, unlike salmon fishing in the Yemen, which didn't tell you how to fish for salmon in the Yemen, or the short history of tractors in the Ukraine, which didn't tell you much about tractors in the Ukraine, this is literally about chopping wood and burning it. And it has been translated from its Norwegian into virtually every language. It's gone massive across the world. Even our Prime Minister has said that he likes spending time with his woodpile. In these days when everyone wants to get back to nature, technology's gone way too far for most people, this has become a massive international hit. We have it in stock. We expect to sell lots of this one this year. We like to think at Right Blend that we can stock books that you won't find in many other places, because we like to support independent authors and artists whose books aren't readily available everywhere. You won't find them in the big chains, you won't find them in the supermarkets. We're also really lucky because the authors of those books often come in to see us and do story times with us. We love The Dragon of Alison Oak. It's a local interest book. It tells the story of what really happened to the 1,000-year oak tree in Calderstones Park. Its author Jude Lennon is coming in for a special Christmas story time on November the 28th. Last time she came, she did stories about dragons to celebrate this book coming out, and held her audience absolutely enraptured. It's definitely one to come and see. Now, anybody who's been to see our events with the Pugalugs, where the Pug Dogs came along, will know the artwork of Helen Poole, who illustrated the books. Helen has her own book as well that she has written, called Clara's Crazy Curls. It's a very, very funny book, which is a cautionary tale about what happens when you wish for the wrong things. Clara wishes for the tallest hair in the world. Helen will be here on December the 5th to sign copies of her book. And finally, earlier in the year we had a visit from B.B. Taylor, an author from Birmingham, who brought along with her a raccoon, a fox and an owl. We've got two new books from B.B. Taylor in. This is one of them, Tortoise Tales. It's a brand new book, only come out this week, beautifully illustrated by Carla Brading, and B.B. Taylor will be here on December the 12th. Keep looking at our Facebook page and our website, www.rightblend.co.uk, for all the details of times.
Now, this book is about chess and Auschwitz. Not necessarily easy bedfellows, you might say, but once you're into this book, you'll realise what a wonderful job that John has done. He takes an SS prison guard, a Jewish French watchmaker, and puts them together in a chess tournament. Now, this book is one of those books, if you want a book to give your dad or your granddad, it's brilliant. Seriously, seriously brilliant.
Of course, we don't just stock children's books, we have plenty of books for grown-ups as well. This year, one of the most popular autobiographies that we've got coming out is the autobiography of Bob Latchford. People of a certain age won't need any reminding that Bob Latchford in the 1970s was the first player to score 30 goals in one season. His autobiography is out now, and Bob Latchford will be here on Thursday, December the 3rd, to be interviewed and to sign copies of his book. He'll be here. Doors open at 7 o'clock. The talk will start at 7:30. That's December the 3rd. Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without a new Stephen King. This year, Stephen's new collection of short stories, The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, is out. They are stories that are mostly new. Some have been published in magazines but are new to the book form. Each story is also prefaced with a short piece about how the story was created, so anyone who loved Stephen King's on-writing will love this.
For the last 10 years, I've been very lucky. I read a book called The Spook's Apprentice by Joseph Delaney. Now, Joseph is the master of the macabre. He writes books set in the county, which is Lancashire to you and I, including Merseyside, which is a recent addition to the area. They're about the dark and the dangers of it and how you deal with it. They made a Hollywood film with Jeff Bridges and Julianne Moore, you know, the recent Oscar winner, Ben Barnes, Kit Harington from Game of Thrones, and Alicia Vikander, who's going to be a big star. That's called Seventh Son. It's based on the first 3 books in the Spook series. He's just about to embark on tour in, January, for the new series, New Darkness. Now, the poor old spook, you have to be the 7th son of the 7th son to be a spook. That means you might be able to deal with the dangers of the dark, but they don't have the magic like in Harry Potter. It's all up close and personal. So when you're fighting witches who thirst for your blood, who have sharpened teeth, who have daggers to kill you, you need your wits about you. All you have is a rowan staff and a silver chain. So if you want something that will keep you reading on the dark nights, read Joseph Delaney and relax.
I hope you've enjoyed watching Arts Alive Books as much as we've enjoyed making it. Stay tuned to Bay TV for more programmes on books coming soon. And thank you for watching.